Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. It's our Black Friday sale. Recharge this season with a bundle of cozy, soothing comfort. Now only $17.99 for our C2 mattress and base, plus free premium delivery. Price is higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Maybe you've been dating all year or longer. Maybe you just jumped into the dating pool, but either way, it's hard to know if you're actually doing it right if you're still single and your goal is getting into a relationship. So today we're going to take a close-up look at how to tell you we're on the right track, even if you feel like you're just spinning your wheels. Welcome back to Dating Intentionally. I'm Talia. I'm sharing no-nonsense advice for navigating dating and relationships with confidence and ease. Whether you've been dating for a while or you're just getting started, I believe dating can be fun, but not when you are judging your progress only on whether or not you're coupled up. If that's your mindset, this episode is hopefully going to change that. In my line of work, this podcast, I have the privilege and honor of getting to talk to a lot of people who are dating right now. I see your comments on Spotify and YouTube. I'm in the DMs with you, and I get to go even deeper with members of the new Dating Intentionally community, which you can check out in the show notes. It's a private space to talk about dating with other single folks from all walks of life, and it's a super supportive, warm environment. So if you're dating and you want to get personalized advice from me and to chat with other people who get it, we are waiting for you. Join the Dating Intentionally community in the show notes or go to datingintentionallypod.com/community. So one thing I've picked up from talking with a lot of people who are dating right now, and maybe this is you too, is that they just want to feel like they're on the right track, even if they haven't found the connection they're looking for yet. Dating can be so daunting. You start talking to someone new only to start over with someone different down the line, and you basically repeat that process until it sticks. And of course, sometimes we can hit a dry spell where it's hard to even get past the talking stage and onto a date. I know for me, by the time I had gone on date number 50, I was convinced that I had to go on at least 50 more for something to stick based on how it was going. So today we're going to get into how to know you're on the right track with dating so that you know you're on a path that will lead you to the relationship you want eventually, the relationship that you deserve. First, I'm going to get into the 6 signs that you are on the right track. Then we'll get into what not to look for, some questions about dating progress, and finally, a dating dilemma about navigating the honeymoon stage. We'll also wrap it up with some exciting dating wins from you guys, which I love hearing. The point of me sharing this, by the way, is so that you can relax a bit. Whether you're on a break from dating or you're actively looking to meet people, this is going to help you see that you are doing great. Let's jump into the signs. Sign number 1. You are making decisions that feel more aligned with what you want and how you want to show up. I love this. This is why dating can be such a great experience, the process of it, because it gives us the opportunity over and over to show up more authentically, and it gives us a chance to course correct our decision making. For example, if you are anxiously attached and you're trying to work on that, you know you're on the right track with dating if you aren't constantly checking your phone for a text back, or when you feel like they're pulling away, instead of rushing to figure out what happened, you're giving it a little breathing room. These are the types of steps we're looking for when it comes to healing that anxious attachment and acting differently so you can start to build more security. For me, it looked like not ghosting people, being more direct with communication and practicing that. I knew I had to get better at direct communication if I wanted to get into a secure relationship, and dating was my practice ground for that. So as you listen to this, I want you to reflect on how you have been changing your actions. How did the version of you in the beginning of this year date versus the version of you now? Is there a difference? Are you choosing differently? Are you acting differently? That is a sign you're on the right track. Another version of making more aligned decisions is choosing to walk away from someone who's not a match. So again, look back, think of times that you actually walked away instead of chasing someone who wasn't interested or trying to make it work with someone who clearly was the wrong fit for you. That's a great sign you're on the right track if you're doing that. You're not going to get closer to meeting your person if you stick with dating people you know are the wrong fit, even if the chemistry is off the charts. Same goes if you're choosing to not chase sparks and let it play out, even if you don't feel sparks on date 1. When I was dating, I knew I was on the right track when I chose to keep seeing the consistent guy who liked me, even if it kind of gave me the ick because I wasn't used to that. It wasn't familiar to me, and I know a lot of you can relate. It's kind of like that thing. It's why don't I like anyone who likes me and why do everyone I like, they don't like me. It's like I learned how to be more interested in the people who actually liked me. It felt like kind of learning to like a really healthy food and eating it for the first time, knowing it's good for me, but not loving the taste, if that makes sense. Like that's how I learned how to adjust my taste so that by the time I met my husband, I had already made this adjustment and started becoming more interested in people who actually were interested in me. And on the flip side, the people who were inconsistent or just showing that they weren't into me turned me off. These are the types of shifts that you want to notice. Even if you haven't found your person yet, figuring this part out is so key. So for this sign, you're on the right track when you're making choices that your future self will be really thankful for. Okay, sign number 2, you are getting better at being more open and vulnerable. So you're on the right track when opening up to people and making connections gets easier every time. Maybe it's not the super strong romantic connection you're looking for, but if you can share a bit of yourself with someone and make them feel comfortable enough to let their guard down with you, that's a wonderful sign you are on track to meeting someone amazing and making that strong connection. Like I said up top, dating is your training ground for a relationship. These are all skills you can practice and hone before you get into that relationship you want. What this looks like is being able to share more real thoughts and feelings without worrying so much about how they're going to come off, within reason, of course, right? We're not oversharing, we're not trauma dumping, but being able to tell someone that you actually are enjoying getting to know them if you feel that way. Being able to tell someone what your intentions are, whether it's casual or serious, just being open about that. Letting someone know that you prefer not to do drinks on the first date because you're trying not to drink so much, whatever it is. It could also be just telling someone that you're nervous because that's how you feel. It's just about being honest and open, and it gets easier with time. If you're not trying to appear perfect or chill and you're showing up as yourself, this is a sign you're on track because your person is going to fall for the authentic version of you, not the cool girl or cool guy version of you. Okay, sign number 3 is that you are easing into a slow burn. If you are able to slow down a bit, take a minute to reflect. Have you been able to go slower in your dating journey this year? That's a great sign. Being able to have some boundaries and not just launching yourself fully into the deep end every time someone is nice to you on the first few dates, that's a good sign. We want more discernment, right? This is such an important skill to have when it comes to finding your person. And if you want to hear more on why, check out my episode with Francesca Hoagie. That's episode number 211. I will link in the show notes because we go really deep into discernment and why it's so important. So if you're able to be more discerning, you are on the right track. Think about this. What have you been more focused on? Have you been more focused on finding a great match or being on your desired timeline? Because if you're more focused on finding a great match, it's going to be a little slower. It might not be on the timeline you want. You're not going to end up forcing it, right? So if you're finding it easier to take beats and reflect on your dates and how they're going, how you feel, that's a great sign that you're on the right track. What helped me most with this one was tracking my dates, which, side note, really, really, really helped me feel on track because I could visually see that I was putting myself out there, putting effort into my dating life, making connections and meeting people. I highly recommend this if you're feeling like you're not getting anywhere because you'll start to see that you actually are moving forward in your dating life. And if you want my template, I will link it in the show notes. It's free. You can grab it there for tracking dates. I just did it in my phone. So I will link that free template in the show notes below. The more you let things fold unnaturally and slowly, the more likely you are to be able to spot red flags and pull yourself out of it when you learn it's not a match. That's why this sign is so important. When you do eventually meet your person, you will have more practice with not getting ahead of yourself and potentially causing the connection to crash and burn by rushing it. So we want to see more of that slow burn. If you're able to do this, you are on the right track. And just to take a minute here, these first 3 have absolutely nothing to do with whether or not you're getting into a relationship. It's everything to do with how you're showing up in dating because that's going to affect the kind of relationship you get into. You want to put yourself on the path towards a secure, balanced, healthy relationship by going slow, by making decisions that align with your intentions, and being authentic. All right, let's go on to sign number 4. You're on the right track if you are having fun. I know. This sign is trickier for us to recognize, probably because there are parts of dating that aren't as fun and they tend to be amplified compared to the fun parts. But if you found yourself lowering the stakes of it, relaxing into the process, and trusting it, that's a great sign you are on the right track. And I will say, I hate the advice, you'll find them when you stop looking, and the other version of the advice, which is you'll find them when you least expect it. I strongly disagree with both of these statements, though I know there are always exceptions. You're more likely to meet someone when you are actually open to it, actively putting yourself in environments where you can meet people, whether that's on the apps or in person, and trying to make connections. And it's even more likely to happen when you're giving off positive energy. Positive energy is magnetic, and I think most people are attracted to that. People can tell when you're having fun and enjoying yourself, and they can tell when you're desperate and just hate the process and hate dating. When you're able to be more calm with dating, when you have more of that grounded confidence we're going for, that's definitely a sign you're on the right track. You're more able to give off this energy that you don't desperately need someone to make you happy, but that you are happy or at least satisfied or content with your life for the most part, and you desire partnership, which is totally fine. This also looks like not treating dates like job interviews, being more present and less focused on the outcome, and generally feeling positive that you will meet someone if you keep going and you stay open. Toward the end of my year of dating, I genuinely felt ready for 100 more dates. And at that point, I didn't know it was coming to an end. I was having so much fun meeting people and just seeing what happened on the date. That no pressure vibe absolutely helped me get into a relationship with my husband because I knew either way that it was going to be fine. Either it would work and we'd date, or it wouldn't and I'd get right back on the horse. So if you need help having more fun in dating, by the way, I recommend listening to episode 103 on how to enjoy dating more. I will link it in the show notes. Okay, let's take a quick break and then we'll get into the 2 more signs. What I love about doing this show is that I get to introduce listeners to all these different ways to get support in their dating journeys. And one of the main ways is therapy. You've probably heard me talk about how working with a therapist for the last 7 or 8 years has helped me improve not just my romantic relationship, but my friendships and my family relationships too. The hard part is finding a therapist that actually works with your insurance. Having done it a few times, I can tell you from experience, it's harder than it sounds. That's why I'm so excited to partner with Rula, a healthcare company that makes getting quality therapy simple and affordable. Rula works with most major insurance plans, and sessions can cost as little as $15, sometimes even $0, depending on your coverage. This is huge. If you've ever worked with a therapist, you know sometimes the cost can be astronomical, and I love that Rula makes it easier on your wallet. Finding a therapist on your own can be overwhelming, but Rula supports you every step of the way, helping you find the right therapist, stay consistent, and actually make progress. They have a network of over 15,000 licensed therapists and psychiatrists across the country, and they'll match you with someone who fits your needs and preferences. You can start meeting with your therapist as soon as the next day. Thousands have already trusted Rula to support them on their journey toward improved mental health and overall well-being. Head over to rula.com/datingintentionally to get started today. After you sign up, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Go to rula.com/datingintentionally and take the first step towards better mental health today. You deserve quality care from someone who cares. I've been on a lot of first dates, and normally I'd feel pretty good about myself going into them, but I was almost always self conscious about my nails. I was a lifelong nail biter until I started taking care of them consistently, and now I use Olive and June's Mani system, which makes having freshly polished, well maintained nails so much easier. There's something about having a manicure that makes me feel like my life is so much more together. Olive and June's Mani system is amazing. It comes with everything you need to keep your nails looking great with salon grade tools and 6 high quality nail polishes of your choice. You can DIY a professional looking manicure without leaving your couch, setting up an appointment, or spending a lot thanks to Olive and June's Mani system. It ends up being about $2 per manicure, which I know for me means a lot because going to the salon frequently really adds up. And that's why I started doing it myself in the first place. Olive and June also has gel mani systems, pedicure systems, and so many different polish colors to choose from, and press-ons. Their press-on options are adorable, and if you're looking for a gift for someone who loves nail care, Olive and June is the best option. Visit oliveandjune.com/dating20 for 20% off your first system. That's oliveandjune.com/dating20 for 20% off your first system. Welcome back. So the fifth sign is You are not taking rejection so personally or building up the story that every failed talking stage means that you're doomed. So this is a really important sign to pay attention to. If lately you've been letting rejection be neutral instead of letting it dominate how you feel about your dating life, you are definitely on the right track. Accepting rejection as part of the process and not turning it into this story about how you're unworthy or undateable is part of becoming more emotionally mature and not letting your ego lead the way so much. Yes, rejection is always going to sting a bit. I'm not saying you need to become immune, but what you're looking for is that it doesn't take you out for as long as it used to. And I know it's easier said than done, especially if you had high hopes for something to work out, but the more you can reframe rejection as redirection, the better off you'll be. The right person for you isn't going to reject you as long as you are treating them the way you want to be treated. I remember halfway through my journey, I went on 2 wonderful dates with this great guy who ended up telling me that he didn't want to continue dating, and it sucked. It was confusing because we had made out the prior night and everything, and I thought he was pretty into me, but clearly, we weren't on the same page. I remember wallowing for a few hours. He sent me a text at 6 in the morning being like, I don't want to continue, which was a little weird, but that pain faded away. And I reminded myself that he wasn't the only person that I had been into that year, and it just wasn't a match. So a sign that you're on the right track is that you're not basing your self-worth on someone else's opinions or romantic preferences. This resilience is key to navigating dating and not giving up. And speaking of resilience, that brings me to the last sign, number 6, you recover faster after setbacks. That means all the setbacks, ghosting, bad dates, and dry spells. So let's reflect for a second on your dating journey. Are you able to get back up more quickly after falling down? When you are dealing with something that sucks to deal with, how are you recovering from that? That's a good thing to check in on. If you're recovering more quickly, you are on the right track, because the more you let all the stuff you deal with take you down, the longer it will take for you to meet someone. So if you can get back on the horse quickly, it's a huge marker you're on the right track, because you can keep going, right? You're just going to keep going. Building up resilience, by the way, can look like being able to reframe setbacks like rejection as redirection, focusing on what you can control and not letting your mind drama get the best of you. It also looks like having compassion for yourself instead of judging yourself harshly or blaming yourself for whatever negative things are happening in your dating life. Because let's be real, a lot of the times when things don't work out, it's just because it's not a match. You didn't necessarily do anything wrong. So we need to get rid of that blame if we want to have more resilience. Can you keep showing up even though your last connection didn't work out and it was disappointing? If yes, you were on the right track. I remember when a guy I really broke it off with me because he discovered my Instagram, my dating Instagram, before I had a chance to tell him. And I felt so sad for a few days, but I didn't let it stop me, right? I let myself be sad. I took a mini break, but I got back on the apps. I lined up some dates, and I made sure to avoid that mistake. And a week later, I met Johnny. And like I said earlier, I did not know that was the beginning of the end of my dating era, but choosing to lean into resilience, self-compassion, and learning from my mistakes was key in continuing my journey. Imagine if I hadn't. Who knows where I'd be today? So to wrap this up, you're on the right track if you feel more grounded, confident, and like yourself, like you can be authentic in the process, and you're making choices that align with your values. You're staying open even when it's hard, trying to have more fun with dating, and you're bouncing back faster when things don't work out. Okay, so tell me in the comments or on Instagram at dating.intentionally, which of these signs resonate with you most? I hope after listening to this, you either realize that you're doing better than you think in your dating life, or maybe you've picked up a few things that you could work on, even if you're not making that connection you crave yet. I want to share a little bit more about my experience with this. I was focusing on dating for a year, and like I said, I was ready to do many more years. I didn't want it to just be 1 year. I didn't have that deadline for myself at all. And there were times where I'm like, what am I doing? Am I ever going to meet someone? I went through what you're going through. But I knew I was on the right track for a few personal reasons. One, when I was able to slow down the physical to create more space for the emotional. One thing that kept getting in my way was jumping the gun with the physical stuff. I'd just jump into bed too quickly, and it would kind of cause things to crash and burn, right? Instead of letting the emotional connection grow. So that was when I started being able to actually slow down and really work on not making those old mistakes. I knew I was on the right track because it was working. I was able to create more emotional connections. Another sign for me personally was trusting my gut more on who to keep seeing and who to stop seeing. So I stopped outsourcing my decisions to my friends, which I know a lot of us do. I stopped texting them, who should I see? What should I do? They said this, they're doing this. What should I do? And I started trusting my gut more. And that helped me make more aligned decisions, aligned with what I wanted and what I needed. So that was another sign I was on the right track that I think a lot of us could do better on. I knew I was on the right track when I didn't need validation anymore. This was huge. When I was able to remove validation from the dating equation, I was dating from a much more authentic and aligned space and not just being like, well, do they like me? Are they into me? Are they into me enough? It's like, no. What do I want? Am I choosing them? I like myself. I have my friends and my life. I don't need some random guy on Hinge to like me to feel happy. Like that was huge, huge for me. And again, another one, knowing my history more as a more avoidant person, I knew I was on the right track when I wasn't scared off by someone's flaws. When I started meeting people and being like, okay, there are these flaws, there are these things that kind of are the ick or kind of rubbing me the wrong way, I was able to zoom out and be like, but does this really matter? Like, is this annoying enough to discard everything else about the connection I do like? And when I started being able to just kind of accept people's flaws more, I knew I was on the right track to getting into a relationship because that's what you have to do to get into a relationship. And finally, the last one for me was starting to give people who seemed solid, right? The people that I was looking for more dates, even if the attraction wasn't there initially. It wasn't so much of a good on paper thing as it was, I just really liked how they treated me and showed up in this dating phase. And I think that's what led me to being so open to getting to know Johnny, even though the attraction wasn't immediate. I just really liked how he treated me and I liked talking to him and there were no red flags. So I was like, okay, I am going to give this guy more of a chance. And I'm so glad I did. So those are just some of more like personal reflections on how I knew I was on the right track in dating that maybe will help you realize that you are on the right track. And it's so hard with dating because again, you're going to keep going on these dates. You're going to keep meeting people, keep getting connections. Most of them won't stick. And it doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere, but you are. So I hope that this paints a picture of what progress looks like when you are not in a relationship yet. Things we're not paying attention to, by the way, things that are not on this list, I hope you noticed, are number of dates. There's no number you need to be aiming for. I know I mentioned numbers in mine because I tracked everything like crazy and I just had fun with it, but you don't need to be tracking the number of dates you go on. You don't need to mark your success based on how many dates you're going on. So I would say if that is making you feel anxious or antsy, like, oh, I've only gone on 3 dates this year, like that is not the healthiest marker of success or marker that you're on the right track. Same with number of second dates. A lot of people never really get past the first date, and that's pretty common. Think about it. If you meet a stranger and you hang out with them for 45 minutes and you're talking, chances are you're probably going to find something about them that makes them incompatible with you or vice versa, because you're starting from zero. You're going to learn a lot in that first date, and you might learn that's not a match. So it's okay if you don't have a lot of second dates, kind of how it goes sometimes. Another marker we're not looking at is relationship status, because being single doesn't mean you're behind. It doesn't mean that you're a failure or that you're never going to be in a relationship or that you're not worthy or whatever. It's completely arbitrary, and being single has a lot of perks. Being in a relationship has a lot of perks. Like something to keep in mind here is that you could be in a relationship and still feel stuck, lonely, not in alignment, and miserable. We're here to help you get into the right relationship, not just any relationship. So we want to remove that as a marker of like, you're making progress, you're on the right track. So those are just some things we are not looking for. And look, it's completely normal to feel discouraged if you're not seeing the progress you expected, right? Whether that's you're not getting past the first date or you're not really getting a lot of matches on the apps, nothing's clicking for months. That's disheartening. It's hard, but it doesn't automatically mean that you're doing something wrong. A lot of us, what I've realized in my work is like, a lot of us are doing the right things. You just haven't met the right person yet. So you have to keep going until you do. That's the name of the game. And by the way, if you're feeling stuck, I highly recommend listening to episode 158, which is about what to do when you feel like you're doing everything right and nothing's working. I say a lot more about this on that episode, so I'll link that in the show notes too. Lots of show notes today. Let's get into some questions. How do you recognize when someone clearly isn't a match, even if you want them to be? This is so tough, right? When you have really amazing chemistry or you just love being around them, you feel amazing around them, but it's clearly not a match for some reason. Well, we need to do a reality check, right? You might want them to be all kinds of things. Like, let's just say you meet someone and there's just like one thing that is missing or your needs aren't being met. Like, unfortunately, we need to make decisions based on what's happening now, not the potential or what things could change. So that is how you recognize it. You have to just focus on the facts, focus on reality, not what could be or what might be. That's the trap. So when you're able to recognize and focus on the reality and you're able to cut things off sooner, you're definitely on the right track. Here's another one. How do I know if I'm actually growing in dating or just spinning my wheels? Great question. I think it's really important to be able to reflect and look back and think, what would the version of me last year do in this situation? Am I reacting or acting differently now? And is that more aligned with what I want? Think back on the choices you're making. Are you walking away from people who aren't a fit? Are you not focusing so much on getting validation? Are you deciding to not take things so personally and keep it moving? That's how you know you're actually growing in dating, right? Even if you are on the cycle of meeting new people, realizing it won't work, calling it off, and then doing it all over again. Like, that is cyclical, but you're growing if you're able to make different choices and you can think back, be like, oh yeah, me a year ago would have done something very different. So that's how you know. How can I remind myself that the quiet seasons of dating can still be productive? Another great question, right? Because sometimes you're going to take a break. Sometimes you're going to be traveling or work really busy, or just something will happen in your life that you're like, I can't focus on dating right now. Those seasons can still be productive if you are filling your own cup, if you're taking care of yourself, right? Practicing all that self-care, whatever that looks like for you. You know, if you're taking a break, you're also making sure you're not burn out to the point where you can't stand the people you're dating or the process in general, because like I said earlier, that is not going to help you. If you're still working on yourself, that is something very productive you can do when you're not dating. And finally, if you are taking the time to reflect on what you want and who you need to become to get that, that is another way you can make that break more productive or dry spell or whatever. Like, you don't have to be constantly meeting people to make progress. There are other ways to make progress in dating. All right, after this break, we're going to get into a dating dilemma about the honeymoon phase. We'll be right back. One question I get asked a lot about my dating journey is, how did you manage to go on 150 dates in a year? Part of it is because I was determined to master dating, and the other part of it, well, it's because I am really big into routines. I don't know who I am without my routines. They keep me on track with everything from having relationship check-ins with my husband to getting to the gym 4 times a week to making sure I always have delicious meals ready to go in the fridge. And something I recently added to my routine that I'm so excited about is AG1. AG1 is a daily health drink clinically shown to fill in common nutrient gaps. I've been adding a scoop into my protein shakes every day, and I love having a little boost of nutrients that I know I might not be getting otherwise, especially as we head into the holiday season when our schedules get thrown off and routines pretty much go out the window. It's great to have an easy way to support your body and prioritize wellness, even with this season's chaos. I've been using AG1's original flavor, which tastes like pineapple and vanilla, in my daily shake, and it's so good. I love that it helps me cover the bases with what my body needs, and with AG1, it's just so easy to do. If you're looking to boost your wellness routine, I recommend checking out AG1. Head to drinkag1.com/dating to get a free welcome kit with an AG1 flavor sampler and a bottle of vitamin D3 plus K2 when you first subscribe. That's drinkag1.com/dating. Welcome back. Okay, let's get into it. By the way, you can submit your dating dilemma to the podcast for me to read here or on YouTube, where there's a lot more. There is a link in the show notes. It says submit a dating question, and I pretty much answer a dating dilemma in every episode. So thank you for submitting. Here we go. I, 36 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 36 male, for only a little over a month. Yes, we decided to be exclusive a month in, and he used the girlfriend label first, which I don't hate because I do feel ready, and I, for the first time in forever, haven't wanted to explore other options. But I've gotten a little bit annoyed at him maybe 3 times. Pretty sure this is just me working through my own triggers, but also can't help but feel like everything should always be fun and rosy this early on. Part of me feels like there shouldn't be any conflict at all, even one-sided and there should just be fun. Everything else is great. We're aligned on values, what we want out of life, attraction is there, and I do have fun with him. My last serious relationship was a disaster from the start and I ignored all the red flags. So I'm having a difficult time being able to distinguish between thinking too much or not enough this time, and I really don't want to self-sabotage. Nothing is ever totally perfect, right? Even in the honeymoon phase, or should it be? Thank you for this question. Super relatable. I mean, yeah, I think it's pretty common when you're first starting to get to know someone, even if the connection's great and everything's aligned and you're like, wow, this could really be something, you're probably still going to get annoyed with them sometimes. You're not doing anything wrong. I think that eventually, yes, like reality sets in when you get to know someone. And I don't think this has anything to do with you throwing a label on the relationship, like him calling you his girlfriend at that time. I think it just happens regardless. Maybe it's happening a little sooner than you expected, but that doesn't mean it's doomed. Everything should be perfect in the beginning belief is probably one of the biggest traps early on, especially after you've been through something painful before, right? I understand why you're wary of it, but you're expecting the new relationship to feel like proof you finally got it right. So when any irritation pops up, it's going to trigger some doubt in you. I totally relate to that. But here's the truth. Even in the honeymoon phase, you're both still humans and you're both getting to know each other. You both don't know how each other's brains and hearts work. So you're bringing both, two nervous systems, histories, and quirks into the mix, and it's all new. So feeling annoyed sometimes doesn't mean that there's a problem. It just means that you are noticing the reality of things. You're present, you're engaged, and I'm happy that you're calling out the fact that it's maybe just triggering some stuff for you. It's not actually things that are going to affect the relationship long term at this point, right? There's a difference between someone triggering something in you, even though they do that doesn't mean that what they did was wrong. Sometimes it's just like something that you are bringing to the relationship that you're scared of happening, that you're worried about. And then it's like, it's not really about them. It's about what you have gone through. It's annoying. I get it. The goal here, even in the honeymoon phase, isn't zero conflict or constant fun. I think the goal is being able to handle small moments of tension without spiraling into fear or self-blame or like, oh my God, is this doomed? If everything else feels aligned and you can talk openly and calmly about what bothers you, you're on the right track. So no, it shouldn't be perfect. Perfect isn't real. Okay. If everything's perfect and you never ever run into anything, someone's not speaking up usually. So it's okay that you have a little friction. I want you to stay grounded. Don't buy into this fantasy that the honeymoon stage should be perfect. It definitely wasn't for me. There are definitely some things that Johnny did early on. And I was like, what? And I had to call him out, and you have to make these adjustments. Like I said, everything's new, including each other's quirks and flaws. So it's something to get used to. All right, I hope that helps. And finally, I want to wrap this up with some dating wins. I love hearing your dating wins, and I thought this was appropriate for this episode because it's all about progress, and that doesn't always look like getting into a relationship. Of course, sometimes it does. So here is someone that wrote to me. I met someone in real life. I was dancing to a favorite local band with some girlfriends. I met this really cute guy dancing. He complimented my outfit. I complimented his hair. Then we danced all night. At the end of the night, he said he had a great time hanging out, and I said we should hang out again. I gave him my number. He texted that night, but after a few days of not hearing from him, I texted, hey, new friend. And we've been dating for 2 months now and having the most easy, fun, natural relationship with no ambiguity, just direct, honest communication. Love it. So what I love about this win is that she didn't take his silence, like a few days of not hearing from him, as anything. She just checked in. Hey, new friend. Sometimes that's all it takes. That's why I wanted to share this one, because we have to give people the benefit of the doubt sometimes. Like, don't let a new connection just sit there for a week without saying anything. If you're interested in getting to know them, you need to be showing interest. So the fact that this person writing in was able to just low key be like, hey, just poking that. And then that actually led her to getting into a relationship with this guy. So don't miss those opportunities, right? You never know. Sometimes, yeah, you might not get a response and you've been ghosted and oh, well, that's okay. You can move on. Sometimes it actually ends up turning into something. Okay, here's another one. I finally listened to my gut and called it off with someone I was dating who didn't fit into a boundary I had, regardless of how amazing she was. We had been seeing each other a few months and she wanted kids. I already have 3 and initially didn't want more, but the connection was amazing. I would absolutely still be dating her if I wanted more kids, but I had to listen to my conscience and go against previous self-abandonment patterns. This made room to continue growing with someone who aligns with me more, and it's been great. So I love this win because this guy was saying that, he met an amazing woman who wanted more kids. He already has 3, called it off, even though his previous self might not have called it off, right? That's a growth that we're looking for. And I love that he shared that he's seeing someone new who aligns more, and that's wonderful. Like when you ditch the connections that you know aren't going to work, you make room for the ones that will. So you got to get out of those faster, especially if you already know or have a gut feeling that it's not going to work. All right, here's the last one. I've been dating a guy for a few weeks, around 10 to 11 dates in that time. And as we were going to my friend's Halloween house party, I asked him how I should introduce him to my mates, like who we were to each other. I asked if I could call him my partner or boyfriend, but also said that it would be totally fine if he thought it was too early. He kissed me and said that he was glad I asked and was delighted to make us official. This is how it's done, folks. This is how it's done. Also, we love the magic of the Halloween party. Halloween happened, a few weeks ago. But I'm just saying, like, holiday parties are coming up. This is the time to have this conversation. We love it. It's casual. It's like breezy. It's low key, no pressure. But then you never know what it can turn into. So if you're listening to this and you're like seeing someone and you want to make it official, this is all you have to do. I was talking to my mom the other day and you came up, what should I call you? Can I call you my boyfriend? That's all it can be sometimes. It doesn't have to be this like serious sit down conversation. Love it. Thank you so much for sharing your wins. Super inspiring. And thank you so much for listening. Thanks for trusting me. Don't forget, you're doing great. I mean it. If you know someone who's navigating dating and could use a confidence boost or a fresh perspective, share this episode with them. And if this podcast has helped you, a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify goes a long way. Once again, I'm Talia. This is Dating Intentionally, and I'll see you next time.